Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, whichever time it is, wherever you are that's watching this. It is December 29th, 2022, and it is 4:54 in the morning. Okay. This is part 3 of chapter 5, Bound to Lose, Destined to Win, Bishop Earthquake Kelly. This is part 3. I bought a plane ticket and headed for Baltimore. On the way, the airplane developed trouble as we were flying over Lansing, Michigan. Sparks were coming from one of the airplane wings, and we were falling like a ride on a roller coaster. Okay, I had a dream about if they crash. I had a dream about a plane that crashed, and I had a dream about a roller coaster. Okay. People were panicking, and the cabin was in chaos. The pilot's voice came across the intercom and said, "We are going to do an emergency landing in a cornfield in Lansing. Please remain in your seats and put your head between your knees." We were still heading down like a roller coaster when I heard the voice of God say to me, "Do not fear. You will live and not die." Suddenly, it felt as though a hand reached under the plane and pulled us back up from the sudden drop. Okay, so they didn't crash. Okay, good. The pilot didn't understand what happened, but we were able to make it to Detroit, where we landed safely. The plane was checked, and they decided to let the flight continue to Baltimore. Only 2 passengers got back on the plane, me and one other person. Nothing was going to keep me from getting to Baltimore to ask for Selena's hand in marriage. Aww. The plane continued the flight to Baltimore with no problems. Selena was at the airport to pick me up and drive me to her parents' home. I told them all about my past. I held nothing back. I told them about my life before Jesus and my life after. I became a new creation in Christ. They gave me permission to marry Selena, and they gave us their blessings. Selena worked for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, so they had to check my background to make sure that she could marry me and still remain employed with the FBI. I am thankful to say that they approved me, and Selena was allowed to keep her job. Okay, so there's Bureau and job. Okay. When Selena's pastor learned that she was engaged to me, he was furious. He had already chosen Selena as a wife for his own son, and he tried to talk her out of marrying me. He told her, "This guy is a thug, and I forbid you to marry him. I want you to marry my son." Selena ignored him, but for several years after we married, her former pastor sent me hateful messages. One day, I'd had enough. I called him and said, "I have been nothing but a gentleman to you, but you keep throwing my past in my face. If I hear that you have said so much as one word about me, I will come to Baltimore and beat you within an inch of your life. If you know my past as you say you do, then you know I'm capable of doing it." The next time we were in Baltimore visiting Selena's parents, her pastor called and invited us to dinner. He took us to the fanciest restaurant in town and paid for our dinner. I forgave him and asked him to forgive me for threatening to kill him. He and I became friends and remained so until he died. In October of 1980, before Selena and I were married, I moved to California. When I was a child, Dad took us to California for a visit. I loved the state, with all the warm weather, sunshine, and fruit trees. "I'll live in this state someday," I said to myself. I saw my upcoming marriage as my opportunity to move to California and make a new start. When I arrived in California, I lived briefly with my sister, but I knew that the Lord was leading me to the Los Angeles area. I left my sister's home and moved to Los Angeles, where I lived with a friend of mine, Pastor Shemate, and his wife. After living with them for a short time, they offered to let me move into a house they owned in the Watts area of South Central Los Angeles. If you recall the Watts riots of 1965 or the Rodney King riots of 1992, you will know that Watts is one of the roughest areas of Los Angeles. But having been raised in a rough area of Connecticut, I figured I could handle it. I drove to look at the house on Zamora Avenue. What does that sound familiar? Zamora Avenue, situated right in the heart of Watts, and found gang members gambling on the front porch. Okay, that's all for this video. Thank you for watching.